Good morning, friends and fellow flyers. I've got my tissue prepped and ready to go. We done watered it up into a ball, opened it up, watered it up about 3 times, and pushed it back together. Then I sprayed it down with water. Then when that dried, I sprayed it down with water again. And now that's dry, so we're going to test the paper to see which way the grain is going. Does the grain go this way or the grain goes this way? So I'm going to cut me off a little spot here. A little piece of tissue here. And I want to remember the direction of it going. So it goes, remember the direction. So if I take the paper here and I get to the edge here and I rip it, and it rips a nice straight line, that's the direction of the grain. Let's do that again. It just tore a nice straight line. But if I turn it this way, which would be this direction, across this way, see how it's not trying to rip a straight line. It rips at an angle. So it's not ripping a straight line. It's trying to go to the direction of the grain. So the grain is up and down. We can see that our paper grain is going up and down. That's important because if you put your grain on at a 45 or at a 20-degree angle, then it's going to try to shrink. The grain will try to shrink up that in the direction of the grain, and it can cause your model to twist. So we know now that when we put our tissue on, we want to put it on this direction to keep the grain going up and down this direction. So let's cut us off a piece now. I just usually leave my tissue hanging up like so. Okay. Now I'm going to take my hands and press it down. I'm going to kind of iron the wrinkles back out just a little bit. I want to make it nice and smooth just a little bit. Now there's an area here at the canopy that if you're going to detail out, you can. But what I do is I only tack glue on the canopy. So after I get my 20 seconds, then I can put a little water or something on it and dissolve the glue or pop it back off, and then go from there. So I'm going to pop this on there and glue that down. See, you gotta wait till one area is completely dry before we move on to the next one. Well, that glue sticks for to hold on to it. This is a new one, and then I'm just gonna go around the edges here. Let me find my glasses. Just 1 second. Okay, I got my glasses here, and we're going to put this on the tissue, and we want it to go with the direction of the grain. All right, so I'm going to take some paper towel. I'm going to get me a piece of paper towel. I'm going to cause, this is a brand new one. This is a brand new one, and it's been sitting around a little while. And I'm making sure the front edge is clean, so I'm going to wipe off the front a little bit, make sure I've got a good clean start and not kind of a that looks a little better. It's like a white looking in a minute ago. And I'm going to just apply this right here around this edge. And down the middle. Some people don't do the center section, but I like it to be good and secure all the way around. All right, I've got the glue on. Make sure I don't have any extra bumps here. I'm just going to stick it on the paper, and then I'll flip it over and kind of rub out some of the wrinkles. Make sure I got it tight as I can. Now this is a hurry up and wait process. Sad to say. Now this right here, with it glued down, then I'm going to set it up on a place in my table here, and well, I'll probably just leave it right there. And I've got some little paint bottles here. I'm going to make sure that it's not going to be jacking up on me. I want it to dry flat and level, so we want to hold these areas down, and then we can move on to the other rudder. Now the grain of your how you put your grain is important, so I like putting my grain opposite of the stringer, or opposite of the ribs. If you put your wood grain, the tissue grain, across this, then it tries to draw into those areas and make dips. But if you put the grain across this way, they tighten up and make a little better looking airfoil. So that's what I try to do. So always, is it parallel, horizontal? I forget. I think it's would be horizontal to the stringers, or horizontal to the ribs. I always try to do that. So we're going to put another piece on this, on the rudder, going with the grain. All right. Take my fingers and smooth it out. And then go around the edge here. For some reason, some of them is not as purple as others. It's just weird. Had some kind of little black dot in there. Alright, I'm going to set it right on there. Press it down. Flip it over and wipe out some of the wrinkles. Just kind of push to the edge. Make sure it's stuck decent. Okay. See, it don't look too bad. It don't look too textured-y. Might be a little bit, but it will tighten up some, and those little micro wrinkles will then have room to prevent the model from warping. Okay, I done too much work to warp up my model. Now I want to set this down in an area. I got some more paint bottles here. I don't want this to dry and warp at all, so I want to keep it flat as much as possible while it dries. And don't rush this. Let your glue dry before you move on by putting on the sealer. All right, now there's a choice I got to make. Do I want to put my little piece of paper on here to add the tensile strength or not? I don't think I'm going to. I think it's pretty strong. So I'm going to go ahead and go, my grain is going to go up this direction. And let's just do it. Let's do it. Wow. See, it don't take that long, does it? You could just go right to town, put all this up, make my hands, and smooth out the tissue. There's still plenty of little micro wrinkles in there. Smooth it out, iron out all these little wrinkles. Then I'm going to apply around the edges here. Make sure I got plenty of glue on the project. If your glue kind of clumps up, you can use your little X-Acto knife and rake it out of there. Keep it light as possible. Don't have no clumps of glue. They don't need to be like clumps of glue sticking everywhere. Get all the way around. I put it on the ribs. Some people don't. Make sure I got a good coat on everything. All right, then I'm just gonna stick it on here. See these clumps? I got a little bitty clump right there. Just rake it out of there. Do I have any more? Yeah, don't need these heavy little bumps of clay. Make sure if it had some areas, but add a little bit more pond up there. Okay, good enough. We'll go with the grain here. Boom. Put it on and then rock it down, set it down. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to take my thumbs and pull out some of the wrinkles. Make sure it's got a good adhesive or a good sticking to the edge. Be easy over the edge. I'm trying to force everything out of it, just a little bit. All right, this one here, there's no way I can lay it flat to let it do its thing. Just have to set it aside. Come back to it. I'm gonna set that right over there on the. I'll set it on the box here. Just kind of set it there and move on. Look how far we got. We're already on the bottom of the wings. And I'm going to see if that'll fit. Yeah, it fits right there. Cut this across here. And then down. There, a sheet of the tissue does really good at covering the model. There's always plenty. I'm thankful for that. Okay, I'm ironing out this tissue. You can see it take most of the wrinkles out. Again, go around the edge. Sure, I got plenty of glue on the edge. The glue sticks have really made doing this a breeze. when you use the other way, you had to paint on. Actually, years ago, we'd paint on, like they called it, dope. And the dope really wasn't that sticky. And it felt like the paper was wiggling around and moving around, and you had to wait for that to start trying to dry, to start feeling sticky, and it smelled really bad. We didn't, well, some people say it smells good, but I wasn't a big fan of the smell. And my mom and dad wasn't a big fan of the smell, so it was covering time was not the best. So what we ended up doing is using Elmer's glue mixed with a little water. This was techniques that was eventually shared with me by Richard Miller and Jack McGilvery. I had the fortunate pleasure to hang out with them at the Nats. They chose me. They said, "Hey, Richard come and got me." I was walking around, and Richard come over and saw where I was at and said, "Hey, come and sit with us. Are you interested in free flight?" Excuse me. And I said, "Sure." Make sure I don't have any big clumps. So I'm going around raking out some of these areas that might have picked in a extra little bit of glue that it's a little bit more than I need. And we hung out together there for quite a few years, actually. Every year I'd go to the Nats, and they were there. Okay, put this down. Taking out the wrinkles as I go. I'm kind of pulling to the outside with my fingers a little bit. Trying not to make much of a deal out of this, just get her done. Push down the tissue. How much time have we spent on this? Not much time at all. See, I've done got both wing bottoms covered. Both rudder and elevator covered on one side. This goes by pretty fast. Not a hard thing, not a hard task at all. So I'll make sure that you don't rub too long. Don't try to play with the tissue too much. You will actually rip holes in it. Rub it down there and leave it alone. Do the best you can and stop. That's all you can do. Okay, this is done, so I'm going to set it on the box. We're setting them on the box, let it dry. They're just sitting there. I'm waiting for these to dry. And put the lid on it. The next step would be start doing a fuselage side. But I'm going to wait and finish up my rudder and elevator. When this completely dries, then I'm going to seal it and let it dry one side at a time. One side at a time. You want one side to be done because you don't want the tissue to be soft and go stick in to the other side. So make sure that this is on good, and then if you want to, we can spray it with water, let it tighten up just a touch, let that completely out. Before you spray it with water, you want to make sure your glue stick is done and completely dry. So by taking, I'm going to take the glue stick here, rub it on the paper towel. I got a little spot on the paper towel that I can see. I don't know if you can see that purpley spot. Make sure that's completely dry. Make sure it's holding those parts well. Then I can spritz it with a little water. I used a bottle, got me a bigger bottle of water. And I can spritz that, let it dry completely. Once it's dry completely, then I'll put my sealer on there with but I'll trim it up and wrap the edges down nice and smooth. And then I'll apply my sealer and then let it set flatly. in a good flat position. Always put them in a flat position to dry, and then come back to it. That's about it. All right, folks. You just have a great day. Wait. Cheers with some coffee. Good coffee.